All right, you guys asked for this video in the comments and my DMs how to grow delts. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to upgrade your status and build round 3D masculine delts. And you have to understand that delts are the highest ROI muscle group. This should be the muscle that you prioritize no matter what, because every movie star, every athlete, every person you look up to with an elite, high status masculine physique have massive overdeveloped delts. You will never see a bodybuilder with small delts ever in your life. And a lot of guys actually neglect their delts and focus too much on their chest or their biceps, and they never build that physique that stands out because their delts are lagging. Delts are an instant primal high status signal. They make you look wider, they make you look more dominant. That's where we hold a ton of androgen receptors, so they're literally just going to make you look stronger, powerful, and more masculine. Think about if you've ever seen a woman with big delts that's like a bodybuilder girl. She looks extremely masculine when her shoulders are overdeveloped. So as a man, you want to be prioritizing that muscle group so you look even more masculine. And this is really going to set your physique apart regardless if you're wearing clothes or not. You could be wearing a $2 t-shirt or a $5,000 suit. You are going to be able to see your shoulders. The thing is if you have small shoulders and big arms, in a suit you can't really tell, but if you have big, wide shoulders, it accentuates that V-taper and that movie star athletic aesthetic physique. It makes all the difference in your appearance and makes you look 10 times more attractive. And the thing is women won't even recognize this, but subconsciously, they are going to think you're 10 times more attractive. When I was 17, I experienced this social status effect firsthand. I remember I used to go to a gym. I signed up for it when I was 15. I'm 27. I've been training for 13 years, to give you a little bit of backstory. But I signed up for this really grungy, rundown, Hells Angels run gym that I had no business going to at that age. I was 15 years old. Everyone was 10 times my size, covered in tattoos. Extremely intimidating place for a young man such as myself at that point in my life. But I knew if I put myself around those guys, I was going to learn from them. And you know, in the beginning, I was invisible. No one talked to me. They actually looked down at me. I remember guys would kind of get mad at me, probably rightfully so. But over time, I started training harder. I was showing that I kind of belonged there. I started getting to know a few guys, and they would give me tips. They'd seen people come and go. They'd been training for 30, 40 years, and I'd even get to work out with them sometimes. And they would give me tons of game on developing certain muscle groups, and shoulders was one of them. And by the time I was 17, that's when everything clicked and changed, and my physique went from a boy to a man. And I remember there was a guy I used to train with and was sort of friends with named Cody. He used to bench 400 pounds, so 4 plates, 4 or 5, plus chains on each side. He was an absolute unit, and he said to me, he came up to me and he said, I don't know what happened, but your physique completely changed overnight. You look like you're actually a man, like you actually work out now. And I was only 17 at the time, and I remember I was wearing a white long sleeve t-shirt, and that was the greatest compliment I could have ever got. But I'm going to tell you guys exactly what I did to make that change. And I'm going to put a picture up now of me at 17 with that delt development, because I'd only been training a few years at that point, but it completely changed the way my physique looked. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I did, some of the tips I still implement today to make sure that I have 3D round delts, and they're the cornerstone of my training. People are subconsciously going to judge your physique and your physical hierarchy. Basically, if you have wide delts, you literally look like you are the alpha of the pack. You look dominant, you look masculine, and as I said before, it is a key masculine trait. We always talk about when we're building aesthetic physique, that tight waist with wide back and big shoulders. It really just caps off your physique and really makes you stand out. Think about this. When you walk in a room, you are literally taking up more space. You might take up the space of 2 average men that are thin and wiry. You are literally going to be taking up 2 times the amount of space. So obviously you're going to stand out and have 10 times more presence. But this is how you literally become like the main character of your own life. This is how you stand out. This is how you get more opportunities. And this is what is really going to set your physique apart. So we're first going to cover the basics. If you guys don't know this already, you need to learn this. There's 3 heads to your shoulders. You got the front, side, and rear delt. You need to prioritize all of them. You need to make sure you're focusing on every single one. A lot of guys forget about their rear delts, or they don't train their side delts and only do overhead pressing work. That is just going to make you look like you have flat, small shoulders, and it's not going to actually help you achieve that round 3D look, and that's where 99% of guys mess up already. The first thing we need to be doing is prioritizing our shoulders, either having a dedicated day or doing them at the beginning of sessions. A lot of people will do a push day, but they'll order it in chest, maybe a little bit of delts, then triceps, or chest, tris, then delts, because they think, oh, it's a small muscle group, they're easy to grow, but they never end up actually developing good delts. So I've been doing the complete opposite since I was 16, 17, where I would actually do my lateral raises and my rear delts at the very beginning of my push session if I was training push. So instead of going bench press, then a shoulder press, then a machine press, then a lateral raise, I would go rear delts and lateral raises, then go on to like an incline press, then do a shoulder press. That way, delts are the priority of our session, and the muscles we want to grow, we want to train at the beginning of our sessions and put the most amount of energy into them. You can even do a delt and arm day. That's actually probably one of my favorite, but what you guys need to understand is if you train delts, especially if you like lateral raises and rear delts, it's not actually going to take away anything from your bench press. It's not going to take away anything from your arm training, so there's literally no negatives to putting it at the beginning other than your delts getting too big and looking too round. But train them twice a week, and every single session you need to be doing your side delts, rear delts, and your overhead pressing as well. You have to think of them as a primary muscle group, like your quads or your chest or your back, not like a secondary or accessory like your arms. A lot of people think arms, hamstrings, calves are secondary muscle groups. You do not want to look at your delts like this. You want them to be the main muscle group you're trying to focus on. So when we're training our delts, I actually like to prioritize the delt heads. A lot of guys say you don't need to do overhead pressing because your delts are already getting a lot of work from your incline pressing and your chest pressing. I completely disagree with that, but I do like to put them at the bottom of the priority. So for me, it always goes side delts, rear delts, and then overhead pressing. So I will start the workout with lateral raises. Then I would do rear delts. Sometimes, you can mix those up if you have really lagging rear delts, and then you'll go to your overhead pressing in the middle of your session. But when we're actually training them, how much volume should we be doing? How many reps should we be doing? Well, delts are interesting. In my personal opinion, and this is what I learned over the years, delts respond not only to heavy weight, but also high reps. So especially when you're doing things like rear delts or your lateral raises, your delts are going to respond really well to getting a pump. But you also need to focus on getting stronger over time. Progressive overload is always the cornerstone of our training. That's how you're going to be able to track that you're actually making progress. So we want to make sure the first, let's say we're doing 3 to 4 sets of lateral raises at the beginning of our workout with dumbbells. We want to make sure the first 2 or 3 sets are progressive overload focus. So we're focused on getting stronger. We're moving as much weight as we can with good form and using a little bit of body English and progressing that over time. But what I always like to do at the end of my lateral raises or rear delt flies is do drop sets or even run the rack. So let's say you're doing 30-pound lateral raises. I would do 30 pounds, immediately go down to 25s, immediately go down to 20s, then 15s, then 10s, until I literally can't even lateral raise 5 pounds. This is going to engorge your delts with blood, and this was really the thing that took my delts to the next level. It was literally just running the rack, getting as much blood as I could in the delts. So many people, when they do lateral raises or even rear delts, they look at it as kind of like a secondary accessory movement, as I said earlier, but they will never try to progress the exercise. They will literally do 15, 20-pound lateral raises for the rest of their life, as if that is going to grow your delts. It's just one of those muscle groups, oh, you just keep doing the same thing forever. No, you need to go in there and be like, hey, last week I did 8 reps with 25. I need to do 9. And over time, which is going to take a while, you're going to be able to build up that lateral raise strength. So when we're training our delts, lateral raises, I do anywhere from 8 reps to 20 reps, right? Especially when we're running the rack or doing drop sets. I'm trying to get as much blood as possible in the muscle. If that means I'm going to 15, 20 reps, I'm going to do that. Same with rear delts. I actually like to really focus on building that mind muscle connection. It's one of the toughest muscles to actually feel, especially when you're doing something like a rear delt fly with dumbbells. It can be very difficult to build that mind muscle connection. So I recommend trying to get as many reps as possible because you're just getting more practice at getting good at that movement. Now we're going to talk about some unusual exercises that are kind of forgotten, or a lot of people just disregard entirely and say you don't need them. So as I said earlier, you need to be doing some type of overhead press. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. If you want to do a Smith machine press, a dumbbell overhead press, a standing OHP, in my opinion, they're great. Back when I was 17 and I really saw progress, I was doing a lot of standing overhead press. However, your limiting factor is usually your core and your glute strength. So I would probably do something like a seated overhead press machine or Smith machine. Controversial, A great exercise is the behind the neck press. A lot of people don't like this exercise. They say it's a really high cause of injury, but if you have problem getting into that position, that's a mobility issue, not an exercise issue. So you need to focus on your shoulder mobility, but I would add that in as almost like a secondary shoulder movement. Like we do it sometimes, maybe we do it once a week with slightly lighter weight towards the end of the shoulder session, but it's going to improve your mobility. It really does grow all three heads of your delts because you have to do a wider grip. So you're hitting a little bit of your side delt as well and a little bit of your rear delt. That's for front delts. Now for side delts, there's two main exercises that I think are god tier. Dumbbell lateral raises. Number one, I find every single lateral raise machine pretty bad. Honestly, they're never built in the right dimensions. We all have different biomechanics. We all have different limb lengths, torso heights, and they never really just seem to get the same connection as a good dumbbell lateral raise. Also, a dumbbell lateral raise, you can literally do at any gym, right? Like you don't need to bring cuffs. You don't need to wait for the cable machine. You can literally just go pick up some dumbbells and start hammering out some sets. Next is a wide grip upright row. Now, this is a super underrated exercise, but I attribute so much of my side delt growth and my overall delt growth to this exercise. Now, the reason why a wide grip upright row is so good is because you're basically doing a lateral raise, but you can use more weight. For example, if I can do 110 pounds on a wide grip upright row, that's like doing 55-pound dumbbell lateral raises. So 55 pounds in each hand. It's more stable. It's easier to go heavier. And it's going to work a little bit of your traps as well, which is overall just going to give you that more of that physical dominant appearance. Do drop sets on those wide grip upright rows as well. And so I do a wide grip upright row and pump it into a press to really just engorge the muscle again with blood. As I said earlier, I really want to drive this point home. When you're training your delts, you want to be going heavy, but you also want to be pumping as much blood in there. Really ask yourself, when was the last time you had sore delts? Other than when you first started working out, you don't really get that sore of delts. So I truly believe high volume, lots of blood, focus on strength, blood, and volume, and your delts will respond. And lastly, for our rear delts, I think the best exercise is a rear pec deck, but also getting really good at things like pen lay rows, wide grip pull downs for your upper back. What I've noticed is when I got really strong at a pen lay row, wide grip upper back rows, wide grip pull downs, my rear delts would explode. But if you literally implement those three main tips, so we want to prioritize them at the beginning of the session and hit them twice a week to hit enough frequency for them to grow, focus on volume, blood, and heavy weight all inside our program. So we're hitting the delts from not only every single angle, all three heads of the delt, but we're also hitting them from every possible growth metric. So we're focused on progressive overload, we're focusing on gorging them with blood, and we're doing high volume because they can typically recover from them because we don't get sore delts. And you do some of those little extra exercises, but if you implement these, you will build a high status, masculine, elite physique, and it'll really set you apart from the average gym goer. All you need to do is 2 to 3 sets of your overhead pressing, 3 to 5 sets of lateral raise work, and 3 to 4 sets of rear delt work. Do that twice a week and you will have well-developed delts. But on those sets, especially for your rear delts and lateral raises, add in drop sets, run the rack. Pump as much blood as you can in there and you will see significant progress in your physique. And if you guys want any more tips or any videos on how to grow certain body parts, comment down below, let me know. I'll make a video on that.